Welcome to SDG6, From Here to There, celebrating 10 years of innovation and exploring the next decade of WASH action. My name is Marcia Beliciano. I am Group Head of Corporate Responsibility for RELX, and I'm delighted to welcome you today as we celebrate 10 years of the RELX Environmental Challenge. We began the Environmental Challenge because we recognize that water is a crucial resource and it is so fundamental to life. I wanted to list some figures that the UN has highlighted on their SDG6 page, that 1 in 4 healthcare facilities lack basic water services, which is a very important point, particularly at the moment that we're living through right now with COVID-19. That 3 in 10 people lack access to safely managed drinking water services, and that 6 in 10 people lack access to safely managed sanitation. That 892 million people continue to practice open defecation. That women and girls are responsible for water collection in 80% of households without access to water on their premises. That between 1990 and 2015, the proportion of the global population used an improved drinking water source increased from 76% to 90%. So that was an important step forward, but more has to be done. Because water scarcity affects more than 40% of the global population and is projected to rise. Over 1.7 billion people are currently living in river basins where water usage exceeds recharge. And 2.4 billion people lack access to basic sanitation service, such as toilets and latrines. These issues, which have been prevalent for many years, were the inspiration behind beginning the RELX Environmental Challenge. And I would like to have us watch a first video, which is looking back at this first 10 years of the RELX Environmental Challenge.
Ten years ago, it all started with an idea to create a competition that would support water and sanitation innovators. This became the RELX Environmental Challenge, an annual award celebrating the most promising organisations in this field. Today, we look back at some of the achievements together with past winners.
The biggest benefit to winning the RELX Environmental Challenge Award is the credibility that this prestigious award gave to our project.
Winning this put the spotlight on our technology. This gave us some direct projects. It got interest from other countries for technology transfer.
The biggest benefit of winning the RELX Environmental Challenge has been becoming part of the community of prize winners. We've learned a lot from sharing ideas, particularly around service provision and also waste processing.
The thing I'm most proud of is that we have been able to create employment opportunities. We have created economic growth which has been self-sustained.
We have been able to sell over 500 units of the product to rural families who are owning a toilet for the first time.
What I'm most proud of having done with SolarSec is easily delivering 25,000 SolarSec to a refugee camp. That means delivering safe water to about 50,000 people.
We are working in some of the most remote communities, and yet actually for the user it's a matter of getting your tag, going up to a shopkeeper and buying 10 cents worth of credit. It's a complete 24/7 end-to-end service.
We had a lot of failures, but we kept going, and I think I'm most proud of the fact that today we have a technology that is something that's ready to scale up and ready to be commercialized.
The RELX Environmental Challenge rewards initiatives that are replicable, scalable, and sustainable. The diversity of ideas, technologies, and business models is remarkable. Nonetheless, they all share the same drive and ambition to provide access to safe water and sanitation to those who need it most.
The progress that's been made in achieving water and sanitation for all, I believe it's huge. The statistics sometimes are somewhat discouraging, but I've been able to see huge progress that's being made in communities where 15 years ago I had very little hope, and they made it. But that doesn't mean that we can take our foot off the gas.
So 10 years of fantastic projects supporting entrepreneurs in WASH, water and sanitation. And while we'll be announcing the winners of the 2020 RELX Environmental Challenge before we close today, and we've invited a senior leader from RELX to be able to make that presentation, YS Chi, I'm delighted that we can announce now the 2020 Partnership Prize. We asked our previous winners to consider how they could work together for a prize of $25,000 to support collaboration between themselves and taking the interest that we have with the environmental challenge to heart in terms of having replicability, scalability, local level partners. And it is my pleasure to announce that 3 of our past winners will be sharing the prize. They are Sanergy, AIDFI, and CAST. So let me tell you about them. Sanergy is a Kenyan NGO that provides suitable and affordable sanitation services to urban slums in Africa. AIDFI has extensive experience in several countries providing access to water services to remote rural communities through their innovation, the Ram Pump, which brings water up to communities living on hillsides. And then there's CAST. That's the Canadian-based NGO, and you saw one of the representatives of CAST on the film that we just watched. And they're specialized in technical training and consulting support with recognized practitioners working around the globe. So through the Partnership Prize, the 3 organizations will collaborate and create a series of online trainings targeting water and sanitation networks and practitioners. Sanergy and CAST will work on connecting the disconnected, maintaining knowledge and sharing among non-sewered sanitation operators in the age of COVID-19. And the main goal of this work will be to provide a learning and experience sharing space for non-sewered sanitation stakeholders. So meaning they don't have access to a community-wide sewer network. And they'll be addressing common emptying challenges that have emerged from COVID-19 and be exploring ways to effectively engage emptiers during the pandemic. AIDFI and CAST will be working in Colombia on the project Source to Tap, innovative, affordable, and scalable options for safe drinking water. The objective of this partnership will be training on solutions and access to treat water in remote communities in Colombia, and it will be NGOs and farmer associations. So very exciting, and congratulations to those 3 past winners of the RELX Environmental Challenge. I want now to show you another video. So if the first have achieved, we want to look at the decade ahead. And the decade of water action is running between 2018 and 2028. But we also have the decade left between 2020 and 2030, which is the time frame to advance the Sustainable Development Goals, including SDG6, clean water and sanitation.
Unless we solve this water and sanitation problem, there will be a huge amount of disparity, which I believe at the end is the primary source of all the troubles we see around the world.
Today, 2.2 billion people lack access to safe drinking water, and 4.2 billion have no proper sanitation. With just 10 years left to achieve the 2030 Agenda and to reach the Sustainable Development Goals, we have no time to lose. This is the decade of action.
The ambition of 8.3 is to increase the quality of the projects, to make them super sustainable, and to see the 8.3 ramp pump really spread all over the world. There are hundreds of thousands of sites which can still benefit from the technology.
In long term, our ambition is to introduce this product to other countries in the region that have similar need for affordable yet attractive and modern sanitation and hygiene products.
If people will change their mindset and think about long term and the long game rather than short term profits, that would allow innovations to come to the water and sanitation sector.
The greatest challenge that we face when it comes to contributing to the achievement of Sustainable Development Goal 6 is the need for more widespread adoption of financing structures by cities to roll out non-sewered solutions.
The next decade, our e-water services focus is to scale up. By 2030, I hope that our business is covering about 200 million people.
Our focus for the next decade is really rolling SolarSAC out everywhere. It's a massive undertaking. We're not just talking about getting our product out into 10 countries. We're talking about getting the product out to 100 countries all over the world.
We have to use strategies that are innovative. We have to rely on long-term relationships that we've built with different implementers and collaborating organizations around the world. We believe we can do it.
Let's collaborate to achieve SDG6 to ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all.
So I am delighted to introduce our panel, and if I can ask our panelists to share their audio and video and join me on stage. Hello, Tim. Hello, Valerie.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello, Arup.
I'm here. Yes. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yes.
Okay.
Welcome.
Good.
And I'm going to begin. I think we're just waiting for Cheryl. So we'll see if Cheryl's able to join us. But I'm actually going to begin by having a mini conversation with each one of you before we actually begin with some general questions. So I'm going to start with you, Professor SenGupta. And first, let me introduce you to our audience. You are Chemical Engineering Professor at Lehigh University and the R&D Director, co-founder of Drinkwell. And very importantly, you were our very first prize winner in 2011. You're an expert on groundwater remediation, and you're a highly cited scholar with over 75 publications. And your nonprofit, the Tagore SenGupta Foundation, has led the installation of more than 200 community-operated arsenic treatments systems around Southeast Asia that are providing safe water to approximately 200,000 people. So I also want to highlight that in 2011, you were a Fulbright scholar in India, and you're the inventor of Drinkwell. Can you tell us a little bit about Drinkwell, Arup?
Drinkwell was the kind of a natural follow-up of Tagore SenGupta Foundation. And we were already working in South Asia and also in countries like, Cambodia. And Drinkwell was founded because we received a major grant from United States and India Education Foundation. And it happened after I received the Fulbright. I met someone there. And Drinkwell is not an NGO. It's a social enterprise, but it is just like any other profit-making company, but we do not really make any money. So we take the technologies developed at Lehigh University. It is not just limited to arsenic now. We do many other things, including fluoride removal, desalination, and few other things. We are very much present now in Bangladesh and also in India. And we would try to go to Kenya. We have a board of directors. We have been able to raise capitals. It's growing. We have about altogether more than 60 people. That's one of the goals of the company, to find employment and economic opportunities. So over 660 people, both in Bangladesh and in India now employed. We manufacture materials in India now, and we have even exported that to a small extent in USA and Mexico. So that's also a very good sign that technology doesn't only go from the west to the east. In some cases, it also does move from the east to the west, because a fluoride problem is also prevalent in USA and Mexico. And it's still growing, but financially, these companies, like all others, always tend to struggle, but we are very much there.
And tell me, how did you begin with the focus on arsenic removal from water systems? What inspired you? How did you embark on this career and these achievements?
It happened in 1995. I'm a professor, as you said. I do work in the area of trace contaminant research. That means contaminants which are present in water at very trace concentration, maybe parts per billion, but has serious consequence on health if ingested. And this problem basically surfaced in India, then Bangladesh, and also Cambodia, Vietnam, other countries. So I was drawn into those places by many people who were already facing the problem there. So 1995 is basically the year I got involved. And then obviously I learned a lot of things. And that's how it started, and basically it grew, and I saw the dimension of the problem. The problem is also very much there in the United States, but the degree of suffering is not really comparable. So that's how I got into this, and obviously it grew bigger and bigger. There were other problems, and I also liked it. There are people who have done PhDs. We got funding from US Department of State. American students have been to India to complete their PhDs. So it is like many activities connected to each other, connecting many dots, and then obviously learning things. And whatever we learned, we also shared with others. So similar systems, technologies are now implemented in many other places. And then we are very much open in sharing this information. So it's not that we foresaw any of these things. It basically grew, we learned, and then we worked with other people, other academic institutions. So it was, to me, looking back, a natural process.
And Arup, as a past winner of the RELX Environmental Challenge on the panel, what did it mean to you to get that recognition? And what did the funding actually achieve?
Oh, the funding-wise, it may not be big, but it was it created a huge difference, because it gave us confidence. That was our first work area implementation was in Cambodia. So there are 3-4 villages where we implemented the system. Villages ran them on their own, and they are very much suffering. And that gave us the confidence. And then basically we grew out of that. We grew out of that. All other things happened. It probably would have been, if not impossible, extremely difficult if we didn't have that first grant and then could try and learn other things. And the people also benefited there very much. They are very thankful. People were suffering from cancer, and they could run the plants on their own without any external help. So without that, this is like the nucleus. Without nucleus, it may be small, but without that small thing, other things don't happen, So that's what it means to us.
Thank you. Well, let me introduce you, Tim Brewer. You're research practice lead for Water Witness International. You have over a decade of experience in the WASH sector, but you come from a policy and research background. So as a policy analyst, you've worked alongside partners across the sector on the development of the SDG WASH goals, targets, and indicators, which we're going to be discussing as we get into the questions on the panel. I know that you've worked with civil society organizations in West and East Africa to develop advocacy campaigns around accountability including 6 months working with colleagues in Liberia. And if I understand your role at Water Witness, which is a UK registered charity, you work with partners globally to hold duty bearers in government and the private sector to account on equitable water management. Tell us a little bit more about that. What does it actually mean to hold leaders to account on water justice?
Sure, thank you for having me. So at the moment, what it means is we're working to identify how people who are rights holders in poor countries for water and sanitation can successfully hold to account the people who are responsible for providing their services. There's a lot of work that's been done historically on different approaches to trying to build accountability in the sector. Things like civil society scorecards, community scorecards, budget tracing, budget tracking, all these kind of activities. And in some places they work and in other places they are unsuccessful. And the challenge is to figure out why an accountability approach will work in one place and not in another, and how to change the structures and the systems that are in place so that accountability is can be achieved, whether that's refining things, something to do with policy, or whether it's a problem of implementation or funding, and trying to identify the correct barrier to accountable service delivery, and then how to rectify it.
So, similar to the question that I asked Arup, Tim, how did you get started in this space, and what inspires you to stay working on these important issues?
Well, it's so fundamental. This is, I got into the sector working for an NGO in the UK, and when you get to know all of the statistics that you read out at the beginning for the lack of access to water and sanitation, and how fundamental these are to really, all parts of human growth and development. It's hard to, you can't turn your back on it once you've seen it, really. So you have to try and keep working on it and try and help be part of the solution.
Okay, well, we have two of our speakers who are having trouble joining us. So while I wait for Cheryl, hopefully, to come on, and Valeri, I don't know if she's on, but she may be having some connection issues. I will ask you both a few questions. So the target for SDG 6.1 is to achieve universal and equitable access to safe and affordable drinking water for all. Arup, are we on track to meet that?
I am not a statistics person, okay, because I have been to maybe 200, 300 villages around the world. But I am a technical person. I try to look at things from my own angle, and also look at things, I call it microscopically, because people give numbers, I want to go and see what access to water they have, what is the quality of that water. Can they really sustain it 2 years from now? The sustainability part to me is the most important part. I can build a plant in any place in 6 months, which will be arsenic safe. But the bigger question is, can the communities there run it on their own for the next 5 years? That's a completely different game. And that needs kind of simultaneous or concurrent economic growth, So I would say that we are making progress, but safe water is not just safe water. Safe water means it comes along with some other SDGs too, which is economic development or employment, which also means kind of education. So all these things can kind of embed it together. So that's the way I look at it. In some areas, we have made great success. In some other places, statistics probably tend to lie, because I can see although a lot of money have been spent, it will be very difficult to sustain them. So what I personally would like to see, I like all of the 17 SDG goals. Climate change is probably in that a different way, but there is a interconnectivity, and not any one of them unilaterally can go on and can sustain itself. So safe water, sanitation, and that kind of simultaneous economic development and education, if they are forgotten, if they're not there, it will be very difficult to sustain it. So when we grow, we should grow together with other SDGs too. Otherwise, it will be difficult. That's the way I look at it.
Thank you, Arup. Let me see, Valerie, if you can hear us, even if we cannot see you.
Hi, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. Well, Valerie, let me just introduce you and your background. You're the country director of IDE. You're the founder of Sama Sama Toilets and a judge, thank you so much, on the RELX Environmental Challenge. And I should say that we had an outstanding year with our applications to the RELX Environmental Challenge. And I'll be able to give you the statistic a little bit later on in terms of how many we have received. But Valeri, you were appointed the head of water sanitation and hygiene in 2015 for IDE. And Sama Sama is a sanitation and social enterprise which uses a direct sales approach to increase people's demand for improved toilets and aggregates local businesses in order to map supply. And you were previously CEO of Clean Team Toilets, a winner of a prestigious prize in the UK at the UK Civil Service Awards. You have been recognized as one of the 10 under 35 change makers in Ghana. And you also were awarded the Mandela Washington Fellowship for Young African Leaders in 2014 by President Obama. You're a mom and a business leader, and I know that you've completed your master's at Cambridge with a core focus on sustainability leadership. And you've been a judge with us since 2017. Valerie, it's not the most glamorous of occupation to focus on sanitation. How did you get started, and what are you trying to achieve with both IDE and Sama Sama?
Yeah, so it was, I said I kind of fell into toilets, not literally, but I started life as an accountant, working in banking and capital markets. And actually, during the 2008 credit crunch, I realized that I wanted to apply my understanding of business in an area that would be more impactful and support to kind of drive sustainable development. So I'm what you would call an imported Ghanaian. So I grew up in London, but I took made the decision to move to Ghana to try and find areas that I could kind of drive social value. And sanitation just seemed to be an area that for me, especially in Ghana, where we are leaders in a lot of areas and we have a good reputation, that it kind of stood out as a conundrum why Ghana ranks second on the continent for practicing open defecation. So it was an area that I thought, I could explore. It was an area that I saw a lot of business opportunity in, or an opportunity to leverage the power of markets to reach consumers with quality products. So I kind of just got involved initially, like you said, with Clean Team, which was a business model focusing on urban sanitation provision in Kumasi, and then later on worked with ID, through which I founded Sama Sama, which focuses on the provision of household sanitation in rural communities.
And Valerie, as our judge on the panel, how do you distinguish between lots of good applications? What do you look for?
I guess I kind of look for three things. One is, is it really innovative? Has it been tried before? If it works, is it something that would shift the sector ahead? I look at the dynamics of the team. So are the people bringing the initiative to the table, have they had the experience, or do they have the passion to really scale something? And then I look at the commercial viability. So is the innovation something that really can go to market? Is it something that the private sector can get behind, or is there sufficient value for local communities to actually want to be able to make a contribution to make the product or service or innovation viable and scalable?
Wonderful. Okay, and we're very fortunate now to have Cheryl Hicks, who's been able to join us. Cheryl, you were appointed the CEO and Executive Director of the Toilet Board Coalition in 2015. And I know you have a background in business, investments, and sustainable development. And the coalition started in 2014, was formalized in 2015, that it's business-led partnership. And you have been working to accelerate what you call the sanitation economy. So tell us a little bit about that. But first, let me just highlight that you bring over 20 years of experience developing innovative approaches to business strategies, impact investment strategies, high-performing multi-stakeholder collaborations, and you were also the head of impact at Claudia Impact Finance in Geneva before you embarked with the Toilet Board Coalition. And you worked with Fortune 500 companies, investors, and startups in sectors ranging from healthcare, consumer goods, food, forestry, chemistry, and renewable energy. And you also have a background with the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, that are known maybe by its acronym, WBCSD in Geneva, Switzerland. So I want to come back to what I said, my question. What is the sanitation economy? What do you mean by that?
Thank you. First of all, I hope you can all hear me. Yes, okay, good. Thank you for inviting me to this panel during World Water Week and to celebrate the 10 years of the RELX Prize. So important to support innovation for water and sanitation. And coming back to the sanitation economy, when the toilet board started, as you mentioned in the introduction, in 2015, by a group of businesses who really wanted to start to look at those innovations for sanitation in particular. At the end of the Millennium Development Goals in 2015, companies in the sanitary ware and hygiene sectors really saw that that they needed to look at where new solutions can be brought through the market for sanitation. And so when the Toilet Board Coalition was started, we created an accelerator program also to support innovation and innovative business models, and really happy to see members of our past Accelerate programs, Sanergy and Clean Team, Valeri from your former role at Clean Team, who have been part of that program, and Luwat in the videos in our network. And so for the last 5 years, we've been supporting business-to-business partnerships, really matchmaking large businesses with small businesses to support scale up of those innovations and new business models. In 2017, after 2 years of the accelerator program and supporting these business-to-business partnerships, we realized that a systemic approach or systemic view on sanitation was really needed. And that's because what we saw in terms of the barriers for many of these companies, because they weren't linked into a full system. And so in sanitation, of course, the toilets, the waste management, and then of course, everything you need to make a business grow need to be connected. At the same time, the business language of the time in the last 10 years has really been around circular economy and digitization. And we saw an opportunity in applying these business approaches to sanitation would help us to get a better view on that full system how to connect it to see these innovations and new business models survive and thrive. And so that is really the creation of the sanitation economy, which brings together toilet access, so innovative business models and products that are enabling access to toilets through the market. Connecting that with circular waste management models where the waste is not only captured, but it is upcycled into valuable resources. And at our current population, we can produce, if we captured all of that waste, we could produce 3.8 trillion liters of biological resource that can be upcycled into energy, reusable water, and nutrients. And we're learning about more applications every day. The digitization of sanitation systems allows us to really understand where improvements still need to be made on the one hand, but also where that resource can be captured for applications in those other sectors of energy, water, and food systems. Digitization can also tell us new information about human health and behavior, as we're seeing with COVID-19. The proliferation of testing for COVID via wastewater and sewage is through the digitization and censoring in those systems. And so it makes us much smarter about how to leverage what we call the assets in sanitation systems. And all of this, in leveraging those assets and upcycling them into new streams of value, gives us the sanitation economy. And so the sanitation economy, simply put, is a marketplace of the products and services that can be derived from sanitation systems. And when we do that, it's a system that becomes economically viable. Currently, sanitation systems have been unaffordable in many of the places where we've struggled to provide universal access to sanitation. The sanitation economy provides a transformational vision of how to turn that picture around by valuing the assets and resources within sanitation systems, and knowing that everyone has to have access to a toilet if we're going to optimize the resources and data that can come out of sanitation. So that's the sanitation economy.
Excellent, thank you. Well, I wanted to ask about the role for business. RELX is a global company. We operate in 40 countries around the world. We have 33,000 people, and we are very committed to the Sustainable Development Goals, not least through the RELX SDG Resource Center, which I encourage everyone to visit. You can do that by just typing in sdgresources.relx.com. And we have over 1,000 content sources on the site. And let me also flag that we've got original research and also things like the SDG News Tracker, which is crawling across over 70,000 different news sources for up-to-the-minute news on the SDGs, including on SDG6. But I wanted to come back, Cheryl, to the role, as you said, your coalition business-led. So what businesses are involved, and what about businesses that wouldn't necessarily think about sanitation as being an area for them?
Sure, thank you. Yes, I'm very proud to share with you the founders, the businesses behind the Toilet Board Coalition, and that is Unilever, Kimberly-Clark, Lixil Corporation, a large Japanese global sanitary ware company, Veolia, one of the largest wastewater treatment and resource companies, and from company who's been working with the Gates Foundation on tackling malodor in sanitation. And we have a new local chapter in India of the Toilet Board Coalition, where many of our founding companies are involved, but also a local multinational Kalyani group, and they are one of the companies that because of the size of the sanitation economy opportunity, a company that was not in the sanitation business but saw the opportunity and the huge demand for safely managed sanitation in India, and got into the sector. And our trajectory for the next 5 years is to introduce the TBC model at local levels in many countries where there is a demand and openness to new approaches to sanitation through the market.
So one of the things that I wanted to ask all of you is about the target 6B, which is to support and strengthen the participation of local communities in improving water and sanitation management. And in fact, that's something that we recognized when we began the RELX Environmental Challenge, that we have to not be, from just the West bringing the solution, that the innovation, there's a lot of good innovation that is happening on the ground. So having local partnerships is really important. And of course, I'm thinking about SDG 17, which focuses on partnerships. So I'm just wondering, in the work that you respectively do, what is the role for local partners? So maybe, Tim, if I start with you on that one.
Thank you. I mean, the communities are the leaders when it comes to accountability for provision of these services as a rule. In Water Witness has a sister organization in Tanzania, Shahidi Wamaji, who been working on social accountability in Tanzania for a long time, working with communities to find ways to make sure people access the rights that they are entitled to by law and policy, but not necessarily taking full advantage of, and recording the quality of service that people are receiving. So the role of partners is to, it is for us to be the partners as much as possible, I think, and for the role of communities to be the lead, and finding places where that kind of relationship is possible is important. I think I'll stop there.
Okay, so Valeri, the role for local partners.
I think for us, I would say that the way that we've approached developing business models is, we would say we start with people. So the first true partners are the communities and the customer segments that we're looking to serve, and using human-centered design to co-create solutions that can really design to context the value that local communities want to get from their sanitation solutions. We've worked a lot with natural leaders in the communities. So these are from government officials to local chiefs to influencers. And I think it's important that when solutions are being innovated, it's the broader ecosystem that we're looking to innovate, not just a specific product or service. And then also making sure that there is sufficient partnerships with government. And by partnerships with government, it's not just in terms of public-private partnerships, which are an opportunity, but it's also looking at partnerships in terms of information sharing, so that as we're looking to scale initiatives, that there is the enabling environment to make that happen.
And Arup, for the work that you have done and are doing, with Drinkwell, what is the role for local partners?
They are there to start with, because we take technologies. You're basically a technology company, which bring technologies to the affected places. Since we bring technologies to the communities, unless they collaborate, they become partners. In our business plan, in our technology plan, then it's almost impossible to sustain, the availability of water. So every place, it maybe varies from one place to the other. Maybe local NGO, local group of people, normally through villagers kind of committee, we operate. And there is also it's a win-win situation. And we try to create a model where they have a financial gain. Somebody from the affected village gets employed. They open a bank account, very transparent. People get paid. Water gets transported to different places. The transporter gets money. So they are kind of embedded into the system. They're like part and parcel of the whole system to start with, because we are solving problems for them, and they have to kind of not only admire that, they have to be the stakeholder. So right from the beginning, they turn out to be stakeholders. Only when there's a problem, they basically come to NGOs like, or social enterprise like Drinkwell or SenGupta Foundation. Otherwise, if you do not hear from them, they're running well on their own, providing safe water. And that's the model, basically. We call it, that's the model people should see, try to emulate, try to transplant with necessary additions and alterations, that finally it becomes independent of all other external factors.
Okay, well, I want to ask a question, Cheryl, about the Millennium Development Goals and the SDGs. How did they differ, and is one more ambitious on water and sanitation than the other set?
I mean, I think at our organization and really business were, I think, taken aback by the lack of progress made in the 15 years of the Millennium Development Goals up to 2015, and therefore sought to take action, as businesses that can bring solutions, as businesses whose own businesses depend on people having access to sanitation. And so the SDGs, yes, I think are very different, and I think there is more alignment, also more engagement of business in the SDGs and through the Toilet Board Coalition SDG6. I think for the future, as we look to the next decade, we have to be even more ambitious. The vision that we've created, the business vision for the sanitation economy that we've created at the Toilet Board Coalition, needs to involve many more sectors now that we see that sanitation is every business's business. Businesses have to provide sanitation to their employees in the communities where they operate, and they're being squeezed in terms of resources that are abundant in sanitation systems. So there's a business case to ensuring that everyone has access to sanitation and being able to leverage the renewable resources within. Also, I mean, open defecation is a huge environmental risk for companies. Another reason for CEOs across sectors to get engaged, especially in the food and agricultural sectors and those using water. In terms of cities as well, we need more ambitious citywide transformation to the sanitation economy. And the difference of the sanitation economy to what we have now is the capturing of all of those resources, not for treatment and sending them out to sea or water bodies often, but capturing them to upcycle them into the resources that we need across the other SDGs. And in this way, sanitation becomes a solution provider, not only for SDG6, but other SDGs dealing with energy, water, of course, in SDG6, the food system, health, when we look at the capabilities of digitization. So I think for the SDGs, they were set out to be more ambitious, to engage business more. But I think now at this 5 years in, with 10 years to go, we need to be even more ambitious and agree on the transformation and set those pathways in motion.
So, Valeri, I want to ask about the pandemic, and if we were struggling before the pandemic, where are we now? And as we were highlighting in the film, the second film about the decade of action on water, the tight time frame with 10 years to achieve a very ambitious agenda for the SDGs. What is the prognosis for where we are now, particularly in light of COVID-19, and how far have we been set back?
I would say the pandemic has had, for me, like two large impacts. It has, on the negative side, hindered our ability to actually produce, deliver, install, and sell toilets within the sanitation marketing kind of ecosystem. But on the upside, it has triggered a behavior change for demand for household toilets. And that's really what I would like to focus on in terms of, for consumers or people in emerging markets, and especially last mile communities, there was a opportunity cost between investing in sanitation, investing in their household, and spending their money on something else. Most countries at some point have had to have a lockdown. And so the response to be able to safeguard people's families of having to stay home and having to kind of isolate and stay separate has actually potentially triggered or elevated people's willingness to pay and invest for sanitation. So I think what we're now seeing is that people know that if you don't have a toilet at home, you can't stay at home, you can't isolate. And I think that that's an opportunity for us in this water and sanitation space to make sure that we are introducing to market the needed and necessary products to ride off that behavior change where people are now willing to invest in sanitation. I think from a operations perspective, we've had to really innovate because of the pandemic. So an example will be in Sama, we had a direct sales force going door to door. It was the same in Clean Team. We were going to households to talk to people about investing in sanitation and telling them about our products and service. We've now had to iterate and innovate different sales channels. We've started to look online. We're starting to leverage WhatsApp. We've had to set up community hand washing stations that can also be points of sales. So I think from a market perspective, it's accelerated our kind of innovation in terms of operations. Looking at the next 10 years, obviously it was a tall order. The SDGs have always been a tall order. But I think that there are a number of things that we can still do to kind of accelerate our the possibility of us achieving the SDGs. I think the two things that I would like to mention here is one around customer segmentation. As a sector, we have been very slow to move past the categorization of urban versus rural sanitation models. I think there are a lot of different segments. And as a sector, if we start to also be more targeted about our initiatives and targeted about our investments, we would be able to scale our reach and our impact quicker. And then the second, we need to be more meaningful about crowding in the next generation of leaders within the water and sanitation space so that there is a consistency to the application and the intensity of how we're looking to apply SDGs. And what I would see now is within the market, we have a lot of people who have a lot of experience and valuable experience in the wash sector, who, if we're looking in the next 10 years, will be leaving the industry. So we need to be more meaningful about developing a pipeline of young, committed professionals within the wash sector to continue that intensity to achieve SDGs.
Thank you, Valerie. I'm going to ask some questions that have come in over the chat function with the time that we have left before we actually cut away to YSG for the announcements of the 2020 RELX Environmental Challenge winners. And let me just also like that and I'll talk a little bit more about this after the presentation of the winners, the expo that will be taking place until 5 p.m. where you can meet some of our past winners, shortlisted projects, and others working in WASH. But I wanted to flag that there's a question for you, Arup, asking how you are working in Mexico in particular, and how someone could be in touch with you to find out more about that work in Mexico.
Yeah, I'll give a quick answer. I am forgetting, I have been there, the name of the province, but this is a province which is, the groundwater is affected by both fluoride and arsenic, and that's through a British company. I ended up there. We started doing the trial run. We sent our we call it a HIX nanomaterials there, but then COVID-19 hit, So I do not know the current status, but this particular person, male or female, can send me an email. I can quickly get him or her in the loop, and then that way I can provide the information. That's my response. Can I add, since you asked the question, the last one, COVID-19, you included in how does it influence? I'd like to point out one thing, not only for us, for all of us around the world, that the way the society or the world is responding to COVID-19, if you just look at the statistics of how many people died at the end of the year 2020 of COVID-19 versus how many people died of unsafe water, the numbers will be very close to each other. But water doesn't get that kind of respect or that kind of prominence. And there is a reason for it. And the sociologists, even the engineer scientists should get into the bottom of that. Why COVID-19 is up there and why so-called unsafe water is at the bottom. With 1% of attention and the resource, most of the problems regarding access to safe water and even sanitation could be addressed. But the desire that the global participation is absent, and one of the reasons being, the primary reason, COVID-19 is an equalizer. It doesn't leave out anybody. British Prime Minister, British Prince, the star players. For unsafe water, it is only the people, mostly the people, who make less than $2 a day. They are the one who perish, And the same way for COVID-19. So there is a discrepancy there. And unless we admire that, appreciate that, hold that thing to our kind of very close to our heart and address this problem, it would be more and more difficult. The technology does exist. Everything does exist. But the people who suffer mostly, they are the very, very poor people. It doesn't touch the people at the very up strata of the society because there is safe water there, They do not get affected by cholera in Africa or Asia, But COVID-19 didn't spare anybody. So that's a very good lesson we should learn, This the equalizer. If we put our attention there, same extent as we do for COVID-19, there can be a very good, long-lasting global solution to this problem. That's a lesson, at least for me.
Yeah, and I think also, Arup, it's come to light, just the importance of having clean water for responding to the COVID-19,
yes.
In terms of having hands.
Good.
Because we know that that's one of the easy ways that the disease spreads. But if you don't have clean water to wash your hands or access to any water, as the case may be, or water in a healthcare setting is so important for testing and for treatment of patients. So I think I can see what you're saying, that it really has amplified this.
I agree.
Cheryl, there's a question that's come in about municipal sewer systems and how they work with a circular sanitation economy. Or do we lose too much of the resource using sewer systems?
Yeah, I think another change over the last 5 years and even a decade, if we look at the technology development, is decentralized sanitation systems, which are very interesting for circular models. Whether it's sewered or not, the important thing is to capture it and reuse it, capture the waste and reuse it. What we've seen in our models and the businesses that we've been working with is that decentralized models become more attractive in terms of the speed to service, and the cost is much lower. And so we can get access to safely managed sanitation to more people than if we were to implement new sewerage systems. In terms of the circular economy, the important, whether it's sewered or non-sewered, decentralized, the important thing is to capture it and reuse it. So in our view, circular can be applied in both cases. It's really a cost factor, and what we've in our modeling and our work with many decentralized businesses now, that's where you get the cost benefit working, when you can have a combined value of toilet access and product use, circular upcycling and resale of the resources, and digitization for efficiencies, but also new value streams such as health and hygiene information.
And a question has come in for you, Tim, and also Valerie, about whether you think we will achieve the investment levels that are needed, and will that investment level be sustainable to address WASH across Africa? And let me just say, Tim, that we've got some really interesting statistics to hand in our preparation for today, that the World Health Organization indicates that there's a significant economic benefit of investing in water sanitation, and they include an overall estimated gain of 1.5% of global GDP, and a US, I guess must be $4.3 return for every dollar invested in water and sanitation services, precisely due to reduced healthcare costs for individuals and society, greater productivity, involvement in the workplace, etc.
Yeah, I think, I mean, there's been estimates around that level for a while of the return on investment, which is important, even before you factor in the elements of the circular economy might add in, of reducing, like, most female labor time collecting water, and all the various household chores associated with water and sanitation that can be reduced with access to household level services, and women in girls in schools, when schools have access to water and sanitation services, which is an important way in which the SDGs are different as well, because the SDGs include this issue of services beyond the household, which have been really holding people back. You mentioned healthcare centres, but also schools are an incredibly important part of that. But in terms of financing, the big challenge with financing is getting domestic financial input into the sector. We can't achieve the SDG goals with aid dependency alone, and with philanthropy. It needs government investment, and as well as business investment in the sector. We know that at the moment, one of the big challenges for government funding of the sector is the amount of tax that governments are able to collect. So we need to make sure, and the amount of tariff income that they're able to collect from water as well, particularly from big users of water in industry and corporations. So some of the main things that business can do to support water and sanitation is to make sure their operations are stewarding water, and we're supporting the Alliance for Water Stewardship initiative, which is about helping corporations to know how to be good water stewards in stressed environments. And making sure that they are paying for the water that they abstract, and paying the tax that's due in the place where they are. And I know that that's something that I was checking before the panel, that RELX has a clear policy on not using tax havens, and we need to see more of that kind of corporate responsibility to make sure that the money is there within the country to fund and to lead, because national leadership brings extra resource from other people. If the government is seen to be investing in a national strategy that we've been talking about, and monitor them and be accountable for them, then other sources of revenue appear. When you see national leadership, then you are willing to invest in that country, and the aid budget available to that country will increase, as well as private investment, because you are seen to be developing a strategy and making real change. So you can crowd in further financing that way.
Valerie,
go ahead. I think I agree with Tim that in order for financing to be sustainable, there needs to be a stronger commitment or stronger channel for locally mobilized investment in sanitation. I'm also looking at the current type of investment that is available. There is, in terms of volume, a significant amount of funding that focuses on containment in the sanitation space, but it's very, very difficult, and there's limited amounts of investment, looking particularly at CapEx investment for waste treatment and waste management. And I think if we're going to move all the way through the SDGs to safely manage and safely dispose waste, human waste, we have to actually start looking at the stratas and the types of investment. I also think that entrepreneurs are going to be a central point in us achieving our SDGs, and there is insufficient funds currently for entrepreneurship in the wash space. And I think that especially for liquidity, so that we can bridge that gap and still offer products and services that allow sanitation to be affordable to their target market. So I think these are the areas there is investment available, there is financing, but it's not targeted enough, it's not reaching the right places. And I think that there needs to be an evolution and more of an open platform for discussion of where we need to get the finance to in order to achieve the SDG.
Thank you, Valeri. We started, Arup, with you at the beginning, and I'd like to give you the last word. Again, just to highlight, you are our very first prize winner back in 2011. And it's a question that has come in about whether these solutions are only useful for the economic South, or can the Western world adopt any of them? And whether there are lessons for the Western world to learn from the experiences of other countries and presumably less developed countries. Let me just highlight that our 2016 RELX Environmental Challenge winner, you saw her, I think, on both of the films that we showed at the beginning, Virginia Gardner of Luwat. She definitely has taken that to heart, because the technology at Luwat that they developed began for festivals, music festivals in the UK, to give the attendees a high quality toilet experience, and they've taken that same technology and they have deployed that in Madagascar. So there's a kind of back and forward of learning between both places. But Arup, for what can our work in places that are more challenged in terms of water and sanitation teach us, those of us in the global north?
Again, I'll be talking based on my own experience. Technology and science, they do not know any borders. They basically stand on the truth. And there are some difficulties depending on the geography where you are in. And what I have found is, one of the examples I do mention, and I believe I did touch on that, we created a technology, but we couldn't apply them in the United States. We did apply them in India and then Cambodia. And then maybe there are 200 such plants in the United States which use the same technologies and materials, which means if it is based on good science, if it is performing well, then it can also go in the other direction. The other thing I have learned is from the Western world, I belong to that world now, we deliberately sometime deliver technologies in the developing world. I've seen that in Kenya and partly in Ethiopia, knowingly these things or these technologies are not sustainable. But at the same time, in poorer countries, it is very easy to do things, get some publicity, write some papers, knowing fully well that's not really the perfect solution. So we do knowingly carry out something not very professional. So that's my finding. And we should really kind of look at same thing I've seen in Bangladesh, that there are lesser number of people drinking safe water than the number of research papers published probably in USA and UK, through the technology. And I wrote a piece, editorial, which title was Breakthrough Technology or Breakthrough Solution. What are we really after? The poor people, the people who suffer, they are looking for breakthrough solution. They're not looking for big names that use some kind of radionuclide or nanotechnology or something very catchy thing to solve the problem there. So these are the two things. And the other thing is that, which is very, very important, that we go there. Basically, you're serving people, that we create an island of excellences. I do not know you can achieve or we can achieve SDG goals, but we can create kind of islands of excellence in different parts of the world, where people can come and see that this community-based water system has been running for 10 years. The sanitation system has been running for 5 years. That cannot tell lies. So we may not solve the big problems statistically, but we have created things like that in Kenya, Ethiopia, India, Bangladesh, all other places. Then people can go learn, and then they can emulate, and it will be their call. So as we proceed along satisfying SDG goals in regard to numbers, we should also try to create lands or islands of, I call it, excellence, which will last nearly forever, because this is based on good technology, good financial model, so that the interested people can come, emulate, change, and then transplant. So that's the best way of, as we have done, most of the world countries are democratic countries today. Democracy was not created just all over the world at the same time. People gradually picked them up, and basically it kind of went all over the world. Technology is no different. Good things eventually kind of run the world, So we should also concentrate on that kind of sustainability things based on good technology.
Well, thank you, Arup, and thank you, Tim, Valerie, and also Cheryl for joining us on this great panel. It was really important for us to hear your experiences and your advice about the wash sector. So thanks for your contribution today, and we look forward to keeping in contact with you going forward. We had for 2020, it was a banner year, we had 170 submissions from 43 different countries. And I see that Mr. Chi is with us, so I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hello, everybody. I don't know if you can hear me or see me. I'm going to assume that you can, because I can see myself on the screen. Can somebody give me a little clue that you can? No?
We can see you, hear you perfectly, YS.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I have had to change browsers in the middle, and I hope this is stable. I'm coming in from Seoul, Korea right now. So let me say good evening from here, but I think for many of you, it's good afternoon there. Thank you, first of all, for joining us today. And it goes without saying that the new normal has forced many events, gatherings, and conferences like this to happen virtually, including the World Water Week today and our environmental challenge announcements. But having spent the last 5 months attending several dozen virtual events, I've realized that these gatherings are actually more critical than ever before. And this pandemic has placed tremendous stress on people, stress on infrastructure, and on governments worldwide. And it's through events like these that we can facilitate an exchange of ideas to weaken such blows. Not only are we here together to try and solve the world's most pressing challenges, but we're also planning ahead for a more sustainable future. So on that note, I have the honor today of announcing the first and second place winners of this year's RELX Environmental Challenge, which is specifically related to UN SDG number 6, which is water and sanitation. As you know, one of the toughest problems to solve in developing areas is providing access to clean water and sanitation. But we have come a long way in recent years. Just as we heard from the inspiring panel minutes ago, Dr. SenGupta, Tim Brewer, Cheryl Hicks, and Valeri Labi have each contributed immensely to developing innovative wash solutions over time. And every day, they're trying to build more accountability, better standards, and sharper technology to progress SDG6. Looking back at our past award winners and applicants, I'm hopeful that such developments and innovation will only continue and improve our society over time. Now, I know that we're all eager to hear about our top 2 winners, but before I dive in, let me first tell you a little bit more about why we're so committed to environmental challenge, especially as we're celebrating an important 10th year milestone. Over the past decade, RELX has delivered almost 30% of all scientific literature in water resource research. Our scientific, medical, and technology arm, Elsevier, also publishes 5 of the top 10 most popular journals with articles related to SDG6. But it doesn't just stop here. We're continuously looking for ways to advance the study of water, sanitation, and hygiene, not just as a traditional publisher, but as a data analytics provider and responsible global corporation. For example, since our launch of the RELX SDG Resource Center in 2017, we've continually taken advantage of its use as an online multimedia education platform to curate content related to sustainability in research. Last November, Elsevier held its first SDG Inspiration Day, and just this June, RELX held our most recent one with inspiring speakers and experts across disciplines who discuss the power of data in achieving SDGs. This year, RELX is also proud to be listed 4th in the Responsibility 100 Index, which is a new ranking of FTSE 100 companies measured against the UN's 17 SDGs. So as you can see, RELX is truly committed to advancing the SDGs, and this environmental challenge is one way we have been able to do so. So without further ado, let's talk about this year's challenge and hear more from our winners. As ever, the levels of innovation and creativity we received were inspirational. There were a record 170 applicants from 43 countries, so as you can imagine, it was no easy feat to decide on the winning projects. After reviewing all proposals closely, our judges finally came to the decision based on how innovative, viable, scalable, and sustainable the projects are. With that, let's reveal our winners. This year's RELX Environmental Challenge second prize award of $25,000 goes to Blue Tap, a brilliant company founded by a team of engineers from Cambridge University. Blue Tap's mission is to provide technology that provides its users access to high-quality drinking water in low-resource settings. Their chlorine doser requires no electricity or moving parts to function and works by inserting the correct amount of chlorine into a water supply to make it safe to drink. Their primary aim is to ensure everyone can drink their tap water while also boosting the local economy by empowering plumbers to expand their businesses. So a big congratulations to Blue Tap. Let's all watch a short video about Blue Tap's project before hearing from its CEO, Becky Donaldson, about what this award means to her.
Hi, I'm Becky. I'm the COO at Blue Tap.
Hi, I'm Tom. I'm the CTO at Blue Tap. So here at Blue Tap, we're developing a low-cost chlorine doser, which anyone can install on the side of their household so they can be sure that if they have access to water, it is safe to drink. There are nearly 130 million households across the world that have access to water in their house but can't trust that it's safe to drink. And this is only going to get worse. When we visited Mbarara, there was one school that was boiling water for 900 pupils 3 times a day. And we want to be able to ease that burden.
Winning the RELX Environmental Challenge is really exciting because our product is developing really rapidly, ready to be installed.
This is our test rig. This is where we test all our new prototypes, and it's currently in the middle of a bit of an upgrade. Actually, all of these parts that you see, pretty much without fail, could all be bought at a market in Uganda.
We really want to close that gap between between water access and water quality so that everybody has water that's safe to drink and that they can trust.
We just wanted to say a huge thank you to RELX for this recognition. It can be hard to know if you're on the right path, especially as quite a young company, but it's great to know that this experienced panel think that we're doing something right. We also wanted to say a huge thank you to all of the people who give us advice about all aspects of our business, from technical things to business to sustainability. We wouldn't have come as far as we have without the help of quite a lot of people. So yeah, thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Blue Tap and Becky. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
What simple and brilliant idea that is so replicable around the world. I can't wait to see the impact you're going to have out there. Well done.
Thank you.
All right. And for the first place winner of this year's RELX Environmental Challenge with an award of $50,000, I'd like to extend our biggest congratulations to CubeX. All of us were incredibly inspired by CubeX's innovative way to de-sludge septic systems in rural areas and refugee settings. Not only have CubeX managed to develop an efficient, cost-effective, and safe way of dealing with waste management, but are also conserving the environment to support the collective human right to health, food, and a decent, dignified life. Overall, CubeX truly embodies the qualities that RELX hopes to find in a winning project. And I'd like to invite you all to now watch a short video about CubeX before we hear a little more from the founder, Mark Aoun, about his project.
Hello, my name is Mark Aoun. I am the founder and CEO of CubeX SAL. We are a social enterprise that specializes in converting bio-waste into a bioresource. Our company is working on addressing challenges in the management of septic sludge. We are improving how it's collected through developing a mobile dewatering unit that allows us to separate the solids in order to reduce the amount of water that ends up being transported. And that way, the solids that we do collect end up being treated in a cost-effective manner at a composting facility.
And what we're doing is we're mixing it with some of this material. These are residues from the pine harvesting process that are very absorbent and allow us to effectively create a nice compost mix.
Winning the RELX Environmental Challenge is a great opportunity that has brought us a lot of hope during the difficult times the country is going through. We have been given a chance to continue to focus on developing our solution so that we can bring it to life.
Hi everyone. First of all, sorry, apologies for Mark. So it's a great honor for me and the whole team to be accepting this award. Of course, we want to thank the organizers for believing in our as our mentors who were with us along the way. Also, we want to congratulate Blue Tap on the and we want to say that beyond this great funding opportunity, we're also really happy to be joining this global community visibility on the work that's being done, not just for us, because you know, it takes two hands to clap, and technology can make the change, but all of us together, hopefully we can attain the sanitation 2030. Thank you.
What brilliant and creative idea. Thank you, Rita, for being with us today. Once again, big congratulations to Blue Tap and CubeX, as well as our many outstanding applicants this year. I cannot wait to see what you will all achieve soon, and hope that today's events has also inspired many new ideas in new areas. To wrap it up, I'd like to share with you all a few of my meaningful takeaways from today's videos and panel discussion. The first is that the progress we've made so far is encouraging. Although it's easy to focus on the gaps and inequities or inequalities with 2030 just around the corner, we must also recognize that we have come a long way and use that as motivation to move forward and keep the foot on the gas. For example, the last 16 years have seen a remarkable increase in access to clean, safe drinking water. Back in 1990, 76% of the world's population had access to an improved drinking resource. And in just 16 years, this figure increased to 91% and is continuing to rise today. And as we heard during the panel, the past 5 years in particular has also seen many companies begin to focus on innovative business models and products to contribute to the sanitation economy. My second takeaway is that this pandemic should be used as an opportunity to accelerate our efforts. The past few months have certainly exposed and compounded jarring inequalities in our societies. Though we have already achieved a lot of positive change, it's not enough. We must strive forward and respond to build a better post-COVID world. The present rate of change is a little too slow to enable us to achieve our goals and all sorts of parity in time. But if we use this pandemic as a catalyst for action and transformation, I believe that we can streamline towards our goals with a sharp focus on those often left behind. Like today, we can keep creating opportunities for stakeholders around the world to share and disseminate knowledge. Like today, we can see how we can best mobilize our resources, scale up our initiatives, and help each other move towards a shared purpose. And finally, my last takeaway is that we each have the ability to navigate society towards a better path, but we can do it much more effectively and efficiently by working together in solidarity. Whether you're a publisher, corporation, government official, researcher, institutional leader, or just a regular global citizen, this pandemic has put a spotlight on our need to strengthen multilateral cooperation, on governance, and on global solidarity. While our commitment to the UN SDGs remain as strong as ever, our urgency to act in solidarity must increase big step. After all, we all want a world where our future generations can lead more equitable, more inclusive, and more enjoyable lives. And we all want a world in which everyone, no matter where they're from and where they live, can sleep at night without worrying about problems such as access to clean water and sanitation. So together, let's speed the word. Let's spread the word and our knowledge to make sure no one is left behind. Together, let's create a more accessible, more equitable, and more sustainable world for centuries to come. So, on behalf of RELX, I'd like to once again congratulate our winners today and thank you all for participation and support. I would also like to thank my colleague Marcia and all of the corporate responsibility team with her here at RELX for all their hard work in putting together this event. They've certainly gone through unique hurdles to allow us to gather from all over the world this year. And I apologize for the technical problem that I had in joining you and a little bit dark lights in the background. But until we meet again, please continue to stay safe and healthy, and let's all keep striving for positive change. Thank you very, very much.
YS, thank you so much for joining us all the way from Korea. And we know we have people watching from different parts of the world today. So that's very exciting. And thank you for the support that you've given to the RELX Environmental Challenge from the very beginning. And here's to 10 more years. Let me also just flag that the festivities are not ending here. we actually have the expo. It's going to be open to 5 p.m. London time. And let me just tell you who you can find and learn more about their technologies, have a chat, look for synergies. We have Cubex, our 2020 winner that you have just heard about, our first prize winner. We have Blue Tap, who you also learned about thanks to Becky, our second prize finisher. We have SolarSac, our 2019 winner, which you saw one of the colleagues there on one of the videos. I mentioned about Luwatt, and you can learn about their solution, their toilet solution in the expo. Also, we're very grateful to our 2017 winner, Allison Wedgwood of eWaterPay. They'll be in the expo. We have 8FE in the Philippines and their RAM pump, our 2015 first prize winner, and also Flex Cravator, our 2018 winner, HandyPod by Wetlands Work, also our 2018 second prize winner, and of course Sanergy, which, as I mentioned at the beginning of the session today, is part of our 2020 partnership prize between 8FE, Sanergy, and CAST. We also have some of our 2020 shortlisted winners, Omnivis, Akyas, and Materi Aqueduct. We also have the podcast pavilion of RELX. We've been recording a podcast series on the impact of COVID-19 on the SDGs. You can listen to some of those discussions that we've had. We have Banca Biolu, the Toilet Board Coalition. We have a feature on the RELX SDG Resource Center. And let me just flag that we also have a really great article that you can find at sdgresources.relx.com on the environmental challenge under SDG6 on the Resource Center. And we also have Woken Up, which is a partnership platform, and they will be in the expo as well. Now, I know YS thanked everyone, but let me also just thank our judges, our distinguished Professor Mark van Lustrecht, who is a winner of the Stockholm Water Prize, and he's also the editor of Water Research, which is one of the world's premier water journals published by Elsevier, a RELX business. And we also have Dr. Lewis Collins to thank, who is the editor of Cell Press, again from Elsevier, who was one of our judges. He is the editor of One Earth, and our second prize winner will be featured in One Earth, and also both winners will feature in Water Research. And I should say that an advantage of winning the prize is also access to Science Direct, which, as you heard from YS, is a very important scientific database for a range of users. Let me also just flag that we hope you will apply in 2021 for the RELX Environmental Challenge. Bring your great projects, your great ideas about how we can scale water and sanitation solutions. And finally, let me thank a particular member of our team, the corporate responsibility team at RELX. Let me also thank Kevin Agnew, who is also one of the judges, who is the head of environment at RELX. But let me thank Miriam Hill for all the hard work she put in to make this day possible and to bring the environmental challenge off so well in 2020. So thank you to her and to everyone. And please now visit the expo. Thank you.